This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going to be building machines that will create these containers of goods that other people will buy and put into their harbor stores, and then other people will bring their big ships and pick up those containers and bring them to an island and sell them. Today we're taking a look at the economic game Container, but this is the 10th anniversary Jumbo Edition. You'll see why it's Jumbo soon. It's a 3 to 5 player economic game. The box says 60 to 90 minutes to play. Let me show you how it's played and I'll see you on the other side. Now this game is the Jumbo version for a reason. Check out this ship. It is 7 inches long and full resin, and it is solid and heavy. Not only does every player get one of the ships of their color, there's also tons of resin containers, which are also big, chunky, heavy bits. The object of the game is to have the most money at the end of the game, and you'll do so by selling containers throughout the game and selling them at your own island spot at the end. Now, each of those containers in your spot on that island is going to be worth a certain amount of points depending on the secret container value card that you got at the beginning of the game. Now, there's a little twist to the final scoring, but we'll go over that later. You'll be selecting 2 actions. So one of the possible actions you can take is buy a warehouse or a machine. Let's first go over buying a machine. Machines are here. What they do throughout the game is they will produce containers into your factory store. This is where other players are going to buy containers from your factories for the prices listed here. And to buy a machine, I look to the first spot to the right of my machines that's open, in this case it's here, and I would pay that much to the bank. That would be $6. Now the other possible action you can take with this is buying a warehouse. Remember, for a single action you're doing one of the other, buying a machine or buying a warehouse, but I'm showing you both here. You would buy a warehouse for the price of the existing spot just to the right of where you have your last warehouse. And so this would be $4. I would spend that. I would take a warehouse from the supply and place it right on there. Now, each of these warehouses will allow you to hold 1 container anywhere in your harbor shop. And holding more is always good because the more you hold, the more items that people can buy from you, because players are going to be buying containers from both your factory stores and your harbor stores for the amount that's listed where that container is. So another possible action is to produce containers from the factory store. We now have 2 machines. When you do that, you must pay. And regardless of how many containers you're creating, you must pay $1 to the union boss, who is the player to your right. Now when you do this, you will create 1 container for each of the color of your machine. Now here, you can place these anywhere you want on your factory store. I could place them both in the same spot. I could place them separate spots. I could place them anywhere. I could even just have all of them here in the 2 spot here. But let's say I go like this. Also, anytime you do this, you can rearrange any of the containers that are already priced. Another possible action you can take is to buy containers for your harbor store. Here I have my warehouses, and remember, my harbor store can hold 1 container for each warehouse, so I can hold a total of 2 containers right here. So one of these actions is to buy containers to be able to place this, which will sell to other players. Now anytime you're buying containers, either from the harbor store or the factory stores, you have to buy it from someone else. You can never buy it from yourself. So here I'm over at the green players board and I'm looking at their factory stores. Now remember, I can hold up to 1 container per warehouse. I have 2 warehouses. I could buy up to both of these. Now for a single action, I can buy as many as I can hold, assuming I can pay for it, but I can only buy from 1 player for a single action. So I could buy this one, or in this case, both. So I would pay this player $3 and I would take both of these. Now when I bought those, that player could not refuse me being able to buy things from them. Now when I get those, I'm going to put them in my harbor store. Again, the max is containers equals the amount of warehouses I have, and I can set the price. I could go like this, I could go like this, I could put them all in the same, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm setting the price, and that's how you do it. Now, if I already had any containers here, when I take this action, I can rearrange anything that's here, similar to how we did when we were rearranging the factory store. Another possible action you can take is called Call the Broker, and that uses the investment bank board here. Now this investment bank has 3 completely different brokers, each of them offering different things. This one is offering $3, this one's offering $2 or a black container, this one's offering $1 or these 2 containers. When you call the broker, you can decide which broker and which side you're trying to make a deal on. Let's say I wanted to go for these 2 containers. The first thing you do is you take this broker card and you're going to put it in one of the 3 ones that this arrow is pointing to. So I'm going to put it here, saying that I'm going to be working with this broker. Now, since I want containers, I have to bid with money. If I wanted the money, I would have to bid with containers from my own supply. Now, once the arrow card is already in one of these slots, that means somebody else is already bidding for something from the investment bank. So if another player wanted to take the call broker action, they could not just bid for anything they want. They have to try to beat the bid that's currently going on. One of the things you have to do at the beginning of your turn is if you own the broker bid card here and it's back to you, then you must do that transaction first. The last possible action you can take is sailing your ship. Now when doing this, your ship can be in one of 3 places. It can be at the island, it can be in some other player's harbor, and when that is, it's any other player or the investment bank's harbor, or it could just be out in the middle of the open sea. Those are the 3 possible spots that it can be. And you can never go to your own harbor. Now for each of those different spots, it costs 1 action in order to move it there. For example, this ship is in the open sea. If it wanted to move to this harbor or any of the harbors that's not their own, from the open sea it's just 1 sail ship action. If they were already in a harbor, it would take 1 sail ship action to get back out to the open sea, and it would take another action if they wanted to go from there to the island. So each of those 3 spots, regardless of where you are, takes 1 sail the ship action. Keep in mind you're only getting 2 actions per turn. Now, if you move your ship to another player's harbor, after you've moved in there, you have the option to buy containers that are in their harbor store. Now, when purchasing containers, they can buy as many as they like that are here for the price that's listed in the harbor store spot that container is in. For example, this yellow player would give the red player $4 to take this and put it on their ship. Now, for a sale action, if you move out to open sea, nothing happens. However, if you sail and you end up on the island, then an auction will happen right then, and this will end your turn at the end of this auction. So how the auction works is it's simultaneous. All the players that weren't the one that brought their ship to the island to cause this auction to happen is going to bid at least 1 card from their stack of money cards. Obviously they get to choose which ones and how many cards they'd like. And so they're going to take those cards and they're going to take some money cards into their hand, keeping the exact number of cards and the values of here hidden, and then everyone gets ready to simultaneously reveal. Now when the auction's over, there's 2 possible things that can happen. Number 1, the active player can accept the highest bid. Now let's say the red player, their highest bid was 2 and they were the highest bidder. If they accept the bid, the red player will pay this money to the active player for all of the containers that are on that ship. So in this case, they'd give 2 to that player, and this would go into the red player's section of the island, which is going to be worth points at the end of the game. And when the active player accepts that bid from the highest bidder, they also get the same amount from the bank as a government subsidy. So if the final bid was 2 and they accepted it, they'd get 2 from the player and 2 from the bank for the government subsidy. Now the active player can decide to decline the bid. Let's say this was that highest bid, the red player, and that active player declined it. The player that had won the bid by the most amount would put that back onto their money stack. Then the active player would pay whatever that highest bid amount was to the bank. And they would be able to keep all of this that was on their ship and put it in their own area. Then the normal bank will pay a government subsidy to the investment bank. So in this case, it was $2 was the winning bet. So just like as if we had won the bid here before, you're going to put $1 at a time, and if there's more than 3, you just keep going top and bottom, as if we had just shown you how to win bids here earlier. Turns continue in a clockwise motion until 2 of the 5 colors of containers are completely gone from the general supply. We would then go to final scoring. Each player would then reveal their secret container value card. Let's say this was the one for the red player. First, we look to see, do we have at least 1 of each of the 5 colors? And in this case we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 of each of the 5. That means for the second one from the highest has a 5/10. If you have 1 of each color, this becomes a 10. Otherwise, it's 5. However, then you have to see which container you have the most of. In this case, it is the yellow kinds. Now, those have to be thrown out of the game for good because you had too many of them. You would then count up. Each of these is worth what it is. This purple's worth 2, that black is worth 6, these 2 browns are worth 4 each, and this one, because we had 1 of each of the 5, was worth 10 each, so a total of 26 for that player. So as you can see, getting all of the ones that were worth the most was not such a great idea after all. All right, well, there you have Container. Now, obviously, Jumbo Edition, first positive here is that this game has absolutely great table presence. I mean, so many times when we're playing this game, we're just looking at the table and going, doesn't this just look amazing? It feels amazing moving these ships around. Of course, the game's expensive because of this, but man, it just totally looks so good and just draws you in further because of how cool these ships and the containers are moving them around. Now, the game is very simple mechanically. Essentially, you're running like 3 different businesses. You've got a producing business, a harbor business, and sort of that auctioning, selling ship business there. But it's very simple, but it definitely has a lot of great depth there in the decisions that are being made. This essentially is a cutthroat business game. There's going to be times where you're looking at what's going on, and you need to really adapt, just like in real business. You're looking around, you're seeing what other players are doing, and you might have a plan of something you want to do at the beginning of the game, but based upon what other players are doing, you're going to change what you're doing. And you might even, hey, you know what, this player's producing things and they're selling for 3, and I'm going to produce the same amount of things and sell them for 2 and undercut them and get some money. Or I can start producing more of those things and I can charge more because people will be coming to me more, because even though it's a little bit more pricey, it's more efficient and they can get more done and more actions and getting more things. It's very interesting to watch how people react and how things do and how the market sort of just works together. It's a very interesting game. I like how there's sort of that sort of price, that the price war, and it's not just with the one set. It's not just with the production. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy some more harbors then. You know what? If you're building a lot of stuff, I better be storing them. And it's all about like not just focusing on one thing, but looking at who's not doing the thing that you want to do, or where is there a niche in the market that nobody's fulfilling. This person has a lot of production. This person's flying or moving their ship around and doing a lot of things. No one's got great harbors, so I'm gonna go make great harbors. And I like how you're trying to always look at the pricing war versus the efficiency versus what else is going on in the game and what can I bring to the table that nobody else is bringing. I like that the game has a good arc to it. So it starts off, everyone has the same amount of money, and then as auctions start, the government subsidies come in, and all of a sudden sort of the inflation comes in and people start spending more money and buying more things and investing more, and it sort of ramps up, and it's just a very interesting thing to watch the economy start from scratch and then sort of build up over the game. The auctions are very interesting due to the sort of goal end of each of those containers are worth different values for different people. And so you might see a shipload of, let's say, 3 containers come up, and depending on those colors, somebody might bid 5, right? Somebody might bid 15. And it's not so much about an auction war, it's more about pay what it's worth to you. And it's interesting to see what it's worth to other people, and based upon people's bids, you're trying to figure out, well, what are they going for? And then you can try to get those things and try to inflate the prices, and it's just a very interesting way that everything is interconnected. New for this edition is the investment bank. Now, the economy was called somewhat fragile in the old version, and you can tell this was a labor of love for the publisher Mercury Games here, because I went back and looked at a lot of the forums on the old version of this, and they were just all in there doing lots of different things for development work, ways to make the game better, a little less fragile economy. And they did that with this investment bank. I think it does a great job because it definitely allows players more options, especially with the lower player counts. It adds sort of another thing that you can go and get, either money or containers, but it also adds ways to get money really quickly, possibly, where, in the old version, there was a beginner variant where you could just get rid of a container for $2. Where now you're kind of using that investment bank to do that. If you're low on cash or you have a loan you got to repay, it's there. Plus, if somebody declines a bid, a lot of that the government subsidy goes to the investment bank, and that will flood it with some cash, and that will really get things moving over there as well. So I really like the addition of this investment bank here. So overall, I really like this game. I typically like economic games, but this game, there's those different paths you can go down with either the production from the factory, the warehouse, or the shipping, and you need to kind of focus on 1 or 2 of those really well to do well, but it's going to change, and every game is going to feel different depending on what other players do. Now, on to the negatives. Anything I can see that can make this game better? Sure, there always is. First of all, there's no player aids here. I would have liked them. Yes, I mentioned it's a simple mechanically game, and it is, but for new players, it still would be useful to have the player aid to see the different actions they can do. Also, specifically, each factory warehouse can hold 2 containers for each machine, and each harbor can hold 1 for each, store warehouse. Well, it's easy to remember that after you've played the game sometimes, or even after just once, but it's really good. I wish there was either something on the board that said max 2 times this or 1 times this, or a player aid that did that and the actions. Minor quibble here, but something that could have improved the game. I felt the game is longer than advertised, even though they shortened the game by using less containers to start it from the original version. The box is 60 to 90. I would be hard pressed to see anybody play this in 60 minutes, even if you know the game really well, because there is a lot of thinking involved. I would say it's probably 90 minutes to 2 hours. Your mileage may vary on there, but it's a little bit longer. But it never felt like it overstayed its welcome. It feels like it flies by. And new players, even though they fixed sort of the fragility of the economy, new players can still get punished pretty bad with even one bad move, whether they badly overpay for an auction or something like that, can really do them harm that will probably live with them for most of the game. It might be hard to come back from that. So it is quite a punishing game. If you're all new to it, you'll learn how it works. If someone knows the game really well, they can sort of go over at the beginning, hey, watch out for this, watch out for this. It'll go a lot smoother, but if all you are newbies, it's gonna take a game or two for you to even just understand what not to do to end up totally screwing yourself up. So it can be a little bit punishing in that regard, but the game is excellent. I love this game. And I'm keeping it in my gaming library, so let's give it a saxophone serenade.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.